throughout the ages, throughout history, throughout different religions. And it's just fascinating. And it was so nice to be in that. The academic world scares the hell out of me because I always feel very dumb. And when I say that, it's like I'm not downing myself. It's interesting to me because I've never, like, growing up and finding it hard to sit in a classroom or having a different out of the box way of thinking, you get labeled as being difficult or not very bright. And then my interests weren't profitable. So, like that kind of thing. So you get this misconception about, what is smart, what is, and, to have people interested and then also not trying to get me to speak differently than I speak. It was such a relief.
Welcome to Big Crystal Energy, Season 3, the Veil Season. I'm Ashleigh, and I live at the threshold. Between medicine and magic, between the visible world and what waits just beyond it, between the person I present and the witch I am. I've learned something. The in-between isn't a problem to solve. It's a place of power. This season, we're exploring the veil, where Victorian women spoke for the dead, where fairies guard the crossroads, where glamour becomes armor, where you stop apologizing for being both things at once. The crystals have always known the way through. Let me show you. Hello, friends. Welcome to Big Crystal Energy. I'm Ashleigh, and I am so excited about today's episode. It is such a good one. Before we dive in, I have to give you a little backstory on today's guest and also on how this episode even came to be, because honestly, it's very on brand for the kind of magic we talk about around here. Marcella Kroll is an artist, author, deck creator, workshop facilitator, and practicing occultist who has been doing professional readings since 2009. She's the creator of the Sacred Symbols Oracle, now in its 4th edition, and the author of Healing the Liminal. Her newest work, which I have right here, is the Initiate's Oracle, a collaboration with artist and magician Adam Smith. Born out of a pilgrimage Marcella took to Egypt in late 2022, sailing the Nile, doing ritual in ancient temples, and connecting with the Hermetic and Egyptian cosmology that inspired every card in this deck. It is stunning. It became my favorite Oracle deck the second I laid eyes on it. Now, here's the thing about recording this episode. When Marcella and I first got on the call to record, we were chatting beforehand, and she mentioned she had a piece of Lemurian quartz sitting next to her. I just started laughing because I had literally just placed a piece of newly acquired Lemurian quartz right next to me while I was setting up. Apparently, all of that combined magical energy was just too much, because at the moment we tried to start recording, her internet completely shorted out and she ended up having to get all new equipment. Can't make this stuff up. Marcella was incredibly gracious about the whole thing, and we rescheduled. Obviously, I'm so glad we did, because this conversation was absolutely worth the wait. She is the absolute best. And if you are not already familiar with her and her work, this is going to be such a treat. And don't waste any time. Go run out and get yourself a copy of the Initiate's Oracle. You will not regret it. Okay, let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Big Crystal Energy. I have a very, very special guest today that I'm extremely excited about. I have the wonderful Marcella Kroll here, and we are going to be talking all about her gorgeous new deck, the Initiate's Oracle, which I have to say became probably my favorite Oracle deck ever the second I saw it and then started working with it. And Marcella, I have to tell you something that I've never told you before. Before we start.
Okay.
So I personally, I follow Marcella online for like years now. And it's just been so weird because sometimes there's people in life that we literally just see them and we just somehow know that they're supposed to be in our world. And you're one of those people for me.
Oh, that's really
And I was like, how, like, I just
nice.
know I'm supposed to learn something from her. And then I had the opportunity to go to your retreat, and that was really fun, and meeting you in person. And I'm like, oh gosh, you're even more amazing in person. So anyway, thank you for coming on. Welcome to Big Crystal Energy.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for coming to that retreat.
Oh my gosh.
First official retreat. It felt like I felt like I and I truly mean this, like, I felt like I knew everyone already,
Wow.
like, so
It was weird.
deeply. Everyone like, the way everyone interacted and was so, like and still is so supportive of each other, and it's like, I just felt like we'd all done that before, you
It
know?
was really cool. It was
Yeah.
really cool. I couldn't even yeah, so I attended this retreat that Marcella hosted in Truth or Consequences, or T or C.
Yeah.
Name it like how they say it down there, and, it was so beautiful, like, the connections were so just easy, natural. Nobody came with anything, like, just themselves, and it was just so beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. And then during the retreat is when Marcella showed us her new deck. So I got a sneak peek of that back then, and then, of course, as soon as I got my copy, then I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." I mean, not only is the deck beautiful, just aesthetically, but her writing is wonderful, and I just can't wait to dive into it more. But Marcella, before we jump into everything, in case there are people in the world that don't know who you are, could you please kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is Marcella Kroll. I'm an artist, a author, a deck creator, workshop facilitator. I like to nerd out on all of the things kind of magical and esoteric, but I'm also very I don't know, I'm kind of contrarian and a brat about things sometimes. Like, I wanna do all this stuff, but then there are some days where I'm like, "Let me watch Family Guy." I don't know, like, I don't but, yeah, I did professionally, I did personal sessions, like mediumship, tarot, oracle readings since 2009 full time, but I've been reading cards since I was 18 and just always been fascinated. I didn't know that it ran in my family because I didn't know my biological father until my 40s, so I always thought that was interesting, that there is a family history even without knowing it, so
It's fascinating. How did you realize that you had certain gifts?
well, when I was little, I used to have a lot of really, strange or interesting experiences, and the adults would be very, like, scared down, like, sometimes just, like, "Shh, quietly," and I would see things a lot. I mean, I remember making potions on the floor, like, in my room, like, when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, like, I would go to, like, the local church, I'd walk up the street. We weren't very supervised, like, it's not very supervised, the household, and just, like, wanna be around incense and the quiet. I also had my grandmother's sister who her older sister, my great aunt Margaret she did the Malocchia and, Italian,
Mhm.
like, just very, like, always interested in things, and then as a teen was like, "Okay," like, I really got into learning about, like, more witchcraft, but all that was really available was, like, Wiccan kind of stuff. They didn't have stuff around me. I do remember my mom's friend was really into tarot. That's actually how they found me when I ran away when I was 13. That's what they
Oh,
attribute it to. I ran away and she did a reading for my mom and said that's how they found me. And,
where did they find you?
they found me on like, at the football field, kinda not
Oh,
I had been out all night. I went
oh
to
my gosh.
to a roller skating party, I went to a hockey game. I did a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do, and then she gave me Doreen Virtue's, not Doreen Virtue, oh my god, Dion Fortune. Oof. Psychic Self-Defense, which is
Mhm.
like, the you know, it's so famous, that book. Um, and I couldn't really, like, still understand it, because there was no one kind of mentoring me until, like, I went to rehab when I was 18, and I started, like, learning how to cast charts and I got a tarot deck from my stepdad's mother and, like or not my adopted dad and like, kind of was just figuring it out. So I don't know, it's kind of a wild ride. And then, there's a lot of struggle with drugs and alcohol throughout my journey. But then, you know, I would do readings here and there. Like I lived in New York, I did readings here and there, and I worked in a burlesque club. But like, it was always word of mouth. It was not something I thought, oh, I'm going to do this for a living. Even in 2008, I started doing readings more publicly, but I always had like a job until I went full time in 2009. So that's kind of my long answer.
Or being in LA during that at that time.
Yeah, it's such a wild ride because I never saw it as, like this is gonna be my work, my profession. I worked in fashion. I worked as a buy in New York, I worked as a buyer for a store that's still around, Beacon's Closet, and I worked at a burlesque club. On the weekends, I stage managed burlesque shows, and then I do gigs. I go to LA, I end up working in, like, a what do you call it, showroom, a fashion showroom and a store, and I got fired for being not the right vibe anymore. Oh, it's very LA. And that was in 2007, I believe, and then I worked at the library. That's how I started teaching tarot for teens, but I worked at the library on a whim. I went to the library and I asked if they were hiring, and I did my Dewey Decimal test, and I got hired as a messenger clerk. And during that stint, the teen librarian was like, "Hey, like, I know you read cards and stuff. Like, would you ever wanna teach it to the teens?" And I was like, "They don't want that. Like, they don't want that." And she's like, "I think you'd be surprised." And I'm also like, I'm at the library. I have a lot of tattoos. The library is actually in Los Angeles is pretty awesome. They're just we don't, that stuff, they're not judging you. And it'd be really funny because the kids would be like, "Oh, are you doing hours?" And I'm like, "No, I work here." You little monk, like, um, yeah, so I taught a tarot class and they were all into it. And then it turned into this thing, well, we're gonna submit it to, you know, the other branches, and then they made it a program, and I taught that for 14 years.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
It
Wow.
was a long time, yeah, and then I had gotten a job I worked in a cafe. So I was working in a coffee shop at a cafe as, like, serving coffee and whatever to people, and, being a surly cafe worker. And then I would do readings in the evening, and I would do them either at the back of my friend's bookstore coffee shop, I would do them in nightclubs, I would do them at the Rose Bowl, and then finally, it kept happening so much, and I got a job at a metaphysical shop in Venice, and I was like, "I'm just gonna go full time." And everyone was like, "You're crazy. That's nuts. Why are you doing that? You need another job." And I was like, I think this is supposed to be my job right now." And, also, I had just filed bankruptcy. Or like, "Oh, this is such a bad idea." But, I also just had gotten my GED. Like, there was lots of things that I was just like, "Okay, I'm just gonna wing it." And then it just kept happening. So, it turned into my work. I think I had people ask me like, "Oh, why'd you get into it?" I was like, "It wasn't for altruistic reasons, not at first." You know? And then my first deck I made in 2013, and I feel like around then, that's when things really shifted. Between 2013 and 2015 is where I suddenly was like, "Oh, this is like what I'm doing." So,
Wow. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I think about even my own career, like, yeah, I like helping people and things like that, but ultimately, when I chose my path, like my medical path, because I was thinking to myself, well, I need to go to college and make money so I can get the hell out of Nebraska and I can do what I want to do. So I better pick a career where I can make some money. I
right?
mean, helping people is great, but like,
Yeah.
what's great is having a paycheck so I can go do what the hell I want.
Yeah. And I think there's this element too of like, when you coming from a survival kind of standpoint, like, I mean, yes, it's a beautiful thing to be able to help people, but I think, if you're just tunnel visioned in survival mode, like that's not, at the forefront of what you're thinking about. Like,
Right.
and it really, again, like things did shift for me ultimately, but also that's on having to like do personal reflection and get therapy or heal yourself, like but I do think that this has been the constant thread. Like, this isn't trendy for me. This isn't something that, oh, I'm just going to pick up and put down. While I have stopped doing personal sessions this year, it doesn't mean I've stopped doing my work. It's just, it's taken a different format. So yeah, and I think that goes for, everyone. If you're in something long enough and you find your way with it, your own evolution with it, it it changes gears and all of those things. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine professionally reading for people. I mean, I would think that would be a lot of energy.
And and so many ups and downs and learning about boundaries,
Yeah.
my own energy. The thing is, there were so many things that would happen in the earlier parts of my work that, people like would be aghast now. Like, it would be like, and I feel like I had to go through a lot of like learning curves without anyone to say, hey, like, you don't have to tolerate that, or hey, maybe you're getting short. Like the oh, because I just remember there being some people, being like, you have to help me.
Oh.
I'm paying you. Or if I didn't understand my own lack of boundaries, and then why and also I'm autistic, right? Also late diagnosed autistic. So a lot of the times, like, I would have overstimulation or things, and I would, you know, shut down, disappear, not know how to communicate, or snap at people, but not know, like, but nobody was advocating for me either. I mean, even still, because I'm a minimal support needs autistic, even when I ask for accommodations or I think I'm being clear, some people, they just don't hear it. Like, or it's not received well because they think I'm like faking it, or, I know I bring up being autistic periodically. I'm very transparent about it, but I'm not making it's not my whole, I try not to make it what I lead with, because I also am still learning about this part of
Sure.
myself.
Yeah, especially since you said you didn't get a diagnosis until you were later in life. And I mean, you were just kind of navigating all these things
Keen,
for
and
your life without really knowing.
yeah, and that's a lot to unpack, Yeah. 2019, like, it's basically, I got sober in 2016. I met my bio dad like a year or so later, and then I got my autistic diagnostics, and then we went into lockdown. Like, there's a lot of things to discover about yourself.
There's a lot of significant life things like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the first deck that you created?
The first deck I created was the Sacred Symbols Oracle, but it's in its 4th edition now. So the first Sacred Symbols was in a little tuck box, and the artwork's completely different than what it looks like now. I have the old notebook where it's just like scritches and scratches, like from when I was living in Pewaukee on 18 acres in the middle of Pewaukee, like on a pueblo. And then I did the art in apps on an iPhone 3. Basically, like, I took pictures of them and then I edited them, but that was the first edition. And then I literally printed 100 and was like, I'm going to end up with like 50 of these, and, they're going to be collecting dust. And now here we are. And it's 2026. It's the 4th edition, and they look different. Even the 2nd edition, I switched up a little bit. I like added a few cards. We changed the box. And then the 3rd edition, I redrew everything because I wanted to, evolve the tool. Like, there were things, it's like, you have the knowledge now, do better, like, evolve it. So, and then the 4th edition, I knew I was going to make. I had already had it in my mind, and then I was approached by a publisher, and yeah, they said, we'll take it. We want to take it on. So it's good. Had quite the evolution.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like it's like multiple decks really in one deck.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So then did your newest deck, the Initiate's work, where did you get inspired from that? Because I know you had a trip that you had gone to. Yeah, is that right? Is that where the inspiration came from?
Yeah, I mean, I have a strong connection with Egypt and with the Netjeru, which is the Egyptian pantheon. Isis, or Osset, but a lot of
Mhm.
people know her as Isis, is the first deity that I ever connected to. When I was 18, I asked her to be my mother, and I always had this connection, and I knew one day it would go. I really thought I wouldn't end up there until my, like, 60s or 70s, to be honest. And I just there I was doing, I would teach with 22 Teaching sometimes.
Mhm.
They used to have a location in downtown LA. They still exist, but they're all over right now.
Mhm.
And Naha, who runs the school, had posted that they were planning a trip, a pilgrimage to do the initiations of this faith. And I right away was like, can I go? And absolutely, yeah. Like, and do you want to teach too? Like, do you want to do stuff? I'm like, yeah, like, come on. So yeah, I met Adam, who was someone that is a student of the school. I met him on this trip, and we also were paired together a lot, like, for ritual. So, yeah, we were temple guardians at Philae, which is Osset's temple. We did quite a bit of, like, we were paired together at Karnak, at the feet of Sekhmet, like, just things
Did you
like
know him? So Adam is the
that's the
art
the illustrator.
illustrator. Did you know him prior to the trip?
No.
No.
But it felt very kindred, very kismet, and, we were kind of, like, joking around about, creating something, and he was like, making fun of each other a little bit, and then he was like, "Well, what if we did something?" And that's kind of where the inception of the idea happened, and then coming back, there was a lot of things that came back upon for both of us, like, I suddenly had to have a pretty hefty surgery, and then I also I had to write my book, Healing the Liminal, and, like, Adam had started drawing and, like, kind of, like, doing these drafts, and then we basically just were going back and forth with, ideas of the cards that wanted to be created that not just represented the trip, but also represented, like, the Hermetic path. So we really wanted to create a deck for magicians by magicians. So there's a lot of reference to ritual or using them. Yes, you can use them to divine, but there's a lot of also, like, self-study involved with them and the symbolism and creating that way. So that was our kind of the spark of the intent, and then it just grew.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, he's really incredible artist.
Yeah, and originally, we had thought about black and white, and then he started playing around with the color. I was like, "No, no," like, we realized, like, the color was the way to go to really bring them to life.
Yeah, gosh. And he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah, in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like he's an artist, he's a magician, he's all the things. That's such a beautiful path. So you came back from the trip, you still had to write Healing the Liminal.
Yes.
So that came after the Egypt trip. Wow, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I came back from Egypt. So Egypt was December of 2022, and then I came back and wrote Healing the Liminal between January and February, like,
Who's Healing the Liminal? So beautiful. Ugh.
thank you. Yeah, and because I originally was supposed to have my manuscript in for January, like, 3rd or something, and I was like, "I can't." It was so stuck, I couldn't write, and I was like, "I have no idea, I had no idea," and I knew in my mind, I was like, "I'm not gonna be able to write until I get back." And it was, the concept was there, and I knew that, like, the curriculum part, because Healing Limos was started as a class, and I was to write a book from the class, so I was like, "How am I gonna do this?" And I knew it wasn't until, like, actually I was on the boat because we sailed the Nile for 4 days, that, you know, I told the story. There's a story towards the end of the book called Ysidro in the
Mhm.
Blurred Timelines place. That's actually the first story that I wrote for this book. And what happened is I just channeled like the story. I opened my voice notes and told it. And from there, I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to write these other stories. So, yeah, it took me all the way, like, you know, to like this 2.5 weeks of being in Egypt for me to have this like epiphany.
Mhm.
And so I came back, I literally wrote the book in 51 days or something.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
yeah, I was like in a hole, like feral, like not, and then I had to have a hysterectomy. And then I taught at Lightning in the Bottle, which was like insanity because that's like the largest crowd I've ever taught.
Wow.
So, and then I was like, okay, like what's next? I think I need to move. And even that kind of with like everything was just rolling, rolling, rolling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Healing the Liminal, I thought it's a really, to me, it was a really powerful book. I read it last summer when we were traveling through Iceland, and like for me, that Iceland is a place that I've always really deeply connected with, kind of like how you feel about Egypt. And I mean, I talked to you about this at the retreat. I don't really know why I connect so deeply with Iceland, but I always have. And so it just felt really timely to be reading these stories while I was traveling through that countryside. And
Mhm.
then I was just like, oh, well, maybe one day I'll actually get to meet Marcella in real life. And I said,
I know, I love it. Well, maybe have you ever had your astrocartography
I
done?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just interviewed an astrocartographer not too long ago for the podcast, and I had gotten on some like not so great website when I was in the Philippines and put in my birth chart and stuff, and it fed me out like completely false results. And
Oh,
yeah, it got it all wrong, and it was like saying that I was supposed like all this stuff around Iceland and all this, and I was like getting so excited, and then she pulled my birth chart with astro.com just at the end of our thing, and she's like, "Yeah, I mean, your what was like your north node goes through Iceland or something, but actually, yeah, but like the one from this other website was like saying all these other places. I don't remember, but I was like, oh, but I don't
well,
know astrology very well, so
uh,
I'll be
I like as like a nerding out on astrocartography. I mean, like there are some places that you're meant to connect to, but maybe not live there. But
yeah.
like I was told that the North Node is like considered a
Mhm.
destiny line. So like my destiny line runs through New Mexico.
Mhm.
Oh, so does my Chiron. So it's like it's a beautiful place for me to have these epiphanies and healings, but it's not a great place for me to like, live full time.
I mean, that makes sense. I cannot really see myself living somewhere like
Right.
this full time. I mean, that climate is pretty
Mhm.
harsh,
Yeah.
big part of the year, and I mean, I don't mind being cold, but like being frigid is
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
War is another thing. I don't mind being bundled up, and like scurrying
Right.
around, but like having to live in that day in and day out is not really my jam. So yeah, but I loved that experience of being there, and I keep thinking back to that time in Iceland. I'm sure you do that too with like your Egypt trip. Like there's certain places like these places that you go and you just like always thinking about it. I'm like, how can I get back there?
Yeah, or just like having the memory be so vivid, like it just
Mhm.
and it-
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, I can like teleport there right now.
Wow, it sounds like such a amazing experience, especially with
But I feel like the group was also very
yeah.
special. I think that makes a difference too. Like who you go with obviously is very important. And also the activities, we were doing ritual daily. And like, so it wasn't just like, yeah, there's these touristy aspects, but we were really fortunate. We got a lot of private time in some of these temples and these places, but we were also like up at 4 a.m. getting on a bus or on a boat to get to places and so it wasn't like it was rigorous,
Yeah.
but we also had a lot of support, but I also feel like it was the group's energy together, really made for the experience, right? Because it's also not an easy place to travel to. Like I wouldn't recommend it like, as a solo traveler, let alone being a female woman traveler or femme presenting. Like you want to, be very mindful, respectful, but also safe, and that all your bases are covered. So,
Oh, sure, absolutely. Um, so with can you for people that are listening to the conversation and they don't really understand what the word like because you talk about like Egyptian and Hermetic, can you kind of explain what Hermetic means for people that don't understand that term?
well, I mean, so, and I might butcher this, but like hermeticism and hermetic magic is a path. It's a thing. It's a way of magic. In some cases, it's you know more ceremonial. It has it's more formal. It has more of a discipline with it than say like, oh, I'm just going to do some like kitchen witch spell type
Right.
thing. Right? When we look at Kemetic or the Neteru, which is the Egyptian pantheon of gods and goddesses, beyond just like, we know the basic ones, right? Like we're all, oh yeah, Horus, oh yeah, Osiris, Isis, Anubis. Like there are some obviously that are more popular, right? But there's a whole constellation of beings in the different families. And so I've also one of the things I really took away with that trip was really learning their Egyptian names, because we're very familiar with the Greek Roman version of their names, but there's something really potent and powerful about learning the actual name and that connection. It was something it felt very important, like to have a deeper understanding of the Egyptian cosmology. And also when you're looking at it from a historical sense, like how much their views change, like they went through rapid changes throughout history of who they worshiped, who they didn't worship. Akhenaten devoted everything to the sun god, to the Aten, like, and, got rid of all the gods, but then they're brought back, or in some places they're more prevalent, like in Elephantine Island, which is home of the Nubian people, the oldest people in Egypt. They, their primary god that they connect to is Kunum, who there's no depictions of Isis, or Osset, so I think if you have an interest in especially the Egyptian cosmology, I would say, like, get to know their names. If you are interested in more formal ceremonial magic, Hermeticism is definitely a path you can take. Me personally, I identify as like kind of an occultist or a chaos magician because I don't put myself on one path. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, because I feel very similar. I have so many different things that I like that it's kind of like a blending together of whatever whatever feels right.
Yeah. Bruce.
And in your deck, I mean, this deck is so fascinating because every single card is just like I feel like you could just stare at every card for such a long time and just keep coming up with new things that you're seeing and new symbols. And how was the process of like writing?
Mhm.
Gosh, I mean, so did you what hand imagine like did you come up with like the name of the like how did that go? Like did you come up with the names of the card?
So, yeah, so a lot of the process, right? For the most part, Adam did a lot of like it took like a couple of years. Like Adam did the illustrations, right? And he would send me like a batch, kind of them. And then I started going through and naming
I
the
see.
cards and then going, okay, like what kind of elements, like what kind of, like the card titles, right? Like what do we have here that fits immediately upon looking at it, right? And then I would go through and go, okay, like what is missing? And these kind of, titles of the cards, I feel like I would like to include these in here. And then also going, okay, then fine tuning. So there'd be a couple of images and be like, okay, I really like, I think we need to have a card for like, say virtue, and, kind of like looking at what's available or like certain symbolisms, right? Like he would also like kind of chime in with, well, what if we added this? So I'm trying to find another card, for example, like symbol wise, like even with like figuring out like most of the deck is the Egyptian archetypes, but we do have like Lilith for liberation. And it just felt really important to have her in here as well, because also, if we're looking at the theme of the deck as a whole, it's not just, oh, this is an Egyptian deck. It's meant to be a deck for transformation. It's meant to be a deck for rituals. So, for example, like even with the retreat, one of the ways that I outlined the retreat was with this deck by saying, okay, this is the overall theme, but like, what's the subject matter? What is the theme of the meditation or the discussion we're going to have? And I would pull a card. So it was like, it's meant to be used, not just, oh, this is an Egyptian deck or this is solely a Hermetic deck. These are just the main, I would say, inspirations for it.
Do you feel like this is a deck that, if you're new to working with oracle cards, do you think this would be a good deck, or do you think this is for someone that has been working with cards for a while?
I think anybody can use it, quite honestly. I don't think there's any limitations on it, because maybe I'm biased, but I think that it's that's also the feedback I've been getting from some people, like, been kind of doing some signings for it and going around, is that people feel like they can jump right into it. And they don't feel like it's very, like, while there's an appreciation for the symbolism broken down, they also feel like they can get the concept of each card pretty quickly without feeling like they have to know everything.
Yes. And I feel like I haven't pulled a card yet that I haven't really been able to see myself in. There's always something, there's always something in every card for me. Like I never have to sit there and really think to myself, okay, I mean, especially when you think about, for example, like with tarot, sometimes in the beginning with tarot, it can feel very overwhelming and like,
Yeah.
hard to understand all the symbolism and everything behind it. But with this, I feel like there's so many things in each card that you can really feel within yourself. Has there been a certain way that you've seen people using this deck? I mean, for me, I personally, I have found that it really has impactful messages for me. So I don't feel like it's good for me to pull from it every single day. Like the methods are they're so powerful that maybe like when I have something that I'm specifically thinking about, then I'll pull cards for myself from it.
Yeah. I've seen it used a couple of ways. One way I've seen it used was like, kind of a card of the day kind of, example. I've seen it in like conjunction with a tarot card. Like I've seen people kind of pull them side by side as like it almost acting like a clarifier. And then one of the really cool ways is one of my Depth Oracle students created a spread for a spell, like like a spell spread using the deck. Like, hey, this is what's on my mind. I want to create a spell for, and then she'd pull a card from the deck. And then I loved like her layout method, because she'd say, all right, so this is the spell. What am I offering? Pull another card. What am I blocking? Pull another card. It's the gift of it, like what is, and then pull another. So like they're very like, like they have a lot of focus message. And but yeah, it's not like I'm not seeing them like, oh, I'm gonna just like ask about my love life. And
No, I mean, I don't get that sense. I mean, I guess you could, but I don't have to ask about my love life too much. I've been the same person for a long time. I think you already know.
Well, be like, it's not like, I don't think it might not be. I feel like it's definitely a reflective deck, and it could be something that you like pull out at parties, like unless it's like, I don't know, like a moon ritual or maybe an intention setting. I don't think it's a casual.
No, it definitely doesn't feel casual. I know, and I've shared this with you, like, I've been getting, like, a lot of snake imagery in my life over the past, I don't know, I'd say since the beginning of the year, and it really started a lot with my snake wallpaper here that I felt really compelled to put in my house. And then there was the snake symbolism at the retreat on the altar. And then we started working with this deck. And then when I got this deck, the first card that I pulled was the beginnings with the and it's just been like building upon each other. And so it's been really interesting to see the evolution of the snake in my life. I'm starting to figure out that it I'm starting to come to some ideas about why that's happening, and it feels like really good to have that clarity around it. And I don't know, this deck is really powerful. I feel like if you are someone that is very magically inclined, you would feel very comfortable using it. But if you're someone that just is a very insightful person, it could be
Yeah.
very good for you too.
And you
Wha-
might also just be someone you just like the artwork, you know? I think that's a huge draw for people too, is like for me as a reader or even for my own practice, like I have to like what I'm looking at, you know?
Absolutely.
I have to feel like inspired or amused by what I'm seeing, you know? So, and I think the artwork really can really express a lot of things that maybe it's more than just what's written in the description in the booklet, but it's like what the artwork makes you feel like.
Oh yeah, and I feel like I'm learning too. I mean, not only am I learning, I mean, I'm learning some of the other concepts within the deck too, because you're in the booklet, you have like the booklet's great because it's all in color, and then it has like the keywords, it has the symbolism. So if there's certain things that you're not really sure about, you could even, you could look it up, and then it's explanatory meaning. And so, I mean, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like I really want to not just like, oh, let me just throw a bunch of, you know, aesthetically pleasing symbols on a page for you. Like I really love the idea of being able to look at something and going like, okay, maybe there's a deeper, you know, like the individual. It's the same thing with tarot. Like when you're looking at particularly like the Smith Way deck, like there's certain symbols and things that they all have meaning. You know, we're looking at different things like reoccurring things or you know, when we're looking at this deck, I don't want it to just be like, "Oh, that's cool," but then not know what it is.
Mhm. Do you have any cards that are like specifically for like very maybe favorites or
I mean, there's, like, definitely a couple. I'm always, like, pulling out the leadership card. That one's it is
oh,
awesome.
leadership? That one just popped up for me here.
Yeah, so there she is, there's your mom, and my like, you know, my mother, you know, because you know, a lot of people know of the story of Osset or Isis, but, like, they know the kind of, like, you know, the tale of, like, her husband being torn apart and her retrieving him, you
Mm,
know, her being the mother of Horus, but they don't know about her own magic and cunning and wisdom. And her ability to take care of her people, you know, just like and how magical she was. So there's just like certain ones that when I see it, it like warms my heart, you know. Definitely I'm like trying to find her. I'm like, oh yeah. And then the initiation card's pretty intense. Like it's there's, you know, the sound of silence is at the top, and then the two sphinxes people below it just reminds me of the never ending story, you know, like like it reminds me of childhood in that way of like going through the arc of initiation and also how sometimes like silence is one of the most magical things you can do. You know, there's
mhm.
like, definitely, obviously, the different Netjeru cards, you know, we have Tahuti, Thoth, like, in both his forms as the baboon and the ibis with the emerald tablet, like, those they just make me happy to see them. It's like it's very exciting.
I love the colors. It's just visually very stunning. It's like the cards just feel nice. I don't know. All of it is very like aesthetically pleasing, but then also just like you're really getting a lot from it. And I don't know. I can't recommend it enough.
Well, and even, like, the self-sacrifice card, like, just, like, you know,
Hmm.
it's like Moot, like, she's a vulture goddess, like, feeding her babies, you know? I just in the offering bowl, things like that, like, they're just they're I really love the way they make me feel looking at them, and, you know, Weiser, who published the deck, I'm so grateful, like, they were like, "Yeah, we see the vision," and it was their idea to add little special things that, like, most publishers really will cheap out on stuff, but they, like, did full color booklet, which is not usual. Also, like, in the deck like, in the box,
Yeah.
the symbols, I mean, the gold edges, a lot of that stuff is things that when doing my own decks, publishing my own decks, and then going to a publisher, a lot of publishers will say no to a lot of those extras because they say it's not cost effective.
Sure.
So Wiser really were like, no, no, like they really made make it in real life, the form of it show up in like a way that I know it just feels nice in the hands.
Because it's very luxurious.
Yes. Yes.
She's girl, so I need to feel a little luxury, and I do feel.
Well, even the cover, like there's a bit of raised
Oh, yes.
edges, like in
Raised.
in the scarab and those little details, like
It's a big difference, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it makes a big difference. It makes me wanna pull for this deck time and time again.
I love that.
I know you've been, touring around and doing your signings. You were just at UC Davis last
Yeah.
week. That looked really nice. How was your experience there?
It was good. It was really cool. It's kind of wild. It's been a bucket list of mine to like one day, speak at a university. Again, these are things I've kind of had flashes in my mind of, but never thought would actually happen or would happen when I was much older. And, you know, their English department, one of the professors, Gregory Dobbins, is a professor of English there and teaches tarot to first years. And they have so many classes that are, oh my gosh, well, let's just say, so this was the first one that they've done and they're hoping to do it again. And there was multiple panels with students and with faculty, and then guest speakers like myself and Ben Belwen. We both had our own panels to speak on. And then we were on a panel called Neurodiversity in the Tarot to talk about, being neurodiverse and how we might find, kind of to quote a recovery term, but like an experience, strength, and hope moment, like with the tarot, why people who are neurodiverse might be drawn to it. I got to sit in on a first year tarot class, which was awesome. I mean, they're like 18-year-olds like doing spreads in tarot and asking me a bunch of questions. So yeah, 5 of the first years, the panel was them asking me questions about deck process and creation and not just about decks, but about healing the liminal as well. But then I got to sit with them, like I said, in their class, and like I got paired up with one of the students, and it was really surreal. They have an alchemy class up there. I know. I was like, what?
When I go back to college, like,
I was like walking around being like,
oh my God, it's like that when I went to college.
right? I know. I got to meet the alchemy teacher, and I
Wow.
her about I made my first alchemical scrying mirror. I got to nerd out too. And like, yeah, like, and then, she teaches a lot on like, even like early colonial alchemists and stuff. It's wild, right? And then in their religious studies, one of the professors teaches a class on sacrifice. It was
Wow.
like, what? Like throughout the ages, throughout history, throughout different religions. And it's just fascinating, and it was so nice to be in that. The academic world scares the hell out of me because I always feel very dumb, and when I say that, it's like I'm not downing myself. I think it's interesting to me because I've never, like, growing up and finding it hard to sit in a classroom or having a different out of the box way of thinking, you kinda get labeled as being difficult or not very bright. And then, like, or my interests weren't like, profitable, so, like, that kinda thing. So you kinda get this misconception about, what is smart, what isn't. And, to have people, um, interested and then also not trying to get me to speak differently than I speak, it was such a relief, because I've done events in the past. I've done like summits and conferences, and they can be hit or miss, especially if I'm having like neurodivergence or anxiety issues that are coming up. And, but this, I just felt so at ease and able to like hear all these wonderful people and then also be able to express the things that I love about these practices. So it was awesome. And I love that they made it open to the public too. So it was open to the public. It wasn't just for students and faculty. It was like, and some people from the public did come, which was nice.
I mean, it kind of is, it's just interesting to me because it's like UC Davis is kind of just like, I mean, that's not really where I would think like
I know.
this kind of thing would be. I don't know where that would be, but I don't think it would be there.
I thought UCLA would be doing something for, for UC Davis, but
I mean, I feel like magically speaking, like I struggle because I feel like there's no one around here
yeah.
with any of these similar interests. And
Right.
it's, I mean, but I know there are people out there. It's just
Well, that's the thing. Because of that opening up to the public as well, a bunch of people that had come together were like, wait, you live an hour away? You live an hour? You live 30 minutes? And like, we're like, wait a minute.
yeah, we could get together.
That's exactly. And there's so many magical people up in Northern California. And I didn't know you're there. Like, there are, but like, it just, sometimes you don't realize like how close, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's something that I've even been thinking about how to cultivate some type of community of people that have similar interests, because it's just nice to have that baseline of like, you get it.
Yeah. You should talk to Steph, who was also at the retreat, because she was
she was there. I thought I saw a picture of her.
she sent me a whole list of an idea that she had about like, because she was like, I didn't know they were up here, they were up here, they were up here. She's like, I have an idea. So I'm like, you should talk to Steph because she had an idea.
Because she's in the Bay Area, which isn't, I mean, we go over there plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, I don't need people. My life is very busy. I don't have time to get together with people all the time. When I have free time, I usually just want to be by myself. But, maybe a couple times a year, every quarter or something. It doesn't have to be like every third Sunday we have to get together and do this and that. And it doesn't even have to be anything like crazy. I mean, it could just be getting together and having coffee and hanging out and talking about whatever we like talking about.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, we have to be out in the forest, like doing some sort of like crazy ritual. I mean, if that's what we're into, that's fine too.
I mean, are we like, that's why we're doing October.
I'm ready. Sign me up. I was already signed up. I'm like, was like, oh yes, I need that.
I love it.
I was telling my friends at work the other day about I was kind of briefly sharing about the October, and they're like, how do you even find these things to go to? I was like, oh, just let me tell you. Because they're like, you always go to all these cool things. I was like, well, you got to get out there. You got to find the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. And
these events are cool. They're fun.
Yeah. Steph is an instigator on that one. That's why October's happening. My thing is when people, she was the one that suggested it. It was like, I'm going to run with this. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing too, is like, for me, I'm like, who wants to make something happen? And then really like, the best gift of it is when people are like, hell yeah, let's follow through. Let's make something happen. Let's get together. Because living in Southern California for a really long time, you meet a lot of like people who say they want to do stuff and then they don't. I'm like, you all can't even commit to a coffee, let alone like, but that's why I love, but like continuing being able to show up and create these, whether it's a gathering, a class, or a moment, where that energy can be expressed or felt or seen, or, and we can be revived a little bit with the human experience, right? Because to me, I don't need much. I need a little camaraderie and a little like excitement, and then I'm good for a while. Like, let's keep going.
Totally. I don't need much either. I mean, my life is really quite chaotic enough. I won't need any more to add to it. All right. So what are you working on now? I know you have your one-on-one trainings and all of that.
Well, I have my Depth Oracle training, which is kind of my equivalent of an apprenticeship. It's a 10-week program. So for the summer right now, I am enrolling one-on-one students for that. And it's a 10-week program. We meet 2 hours a week and we go through the, how to be an oracle, essentially, from the ground all the way up, you know. And then I also offer intuitive development, which is it's more of a, one-to-one kind of tailored sessions to the individual if they have a focus or they're like, I want to work on this specifically, or I need help with this. So it's more out like it's tailored to the person versus being like the 10-week formatted program. The thing with the depth oracle though is you get a certificate of completion at the end, and it's just a really great way to fully commit to being the oracle. I will be offering the group. So the spring cohort is, it was full, it was done, we did great, it was really fun. But the fall cohort, which will be the next group offering of that, is going to be October through December, and that will be for 10 students. So, like I said, I have it as a one-on-one for the summer if people want to do that, or the intuitive development. Depth Oracle, the fall cohort will be, in the fall. And then what else am I working on? I have a book coming out in March. I know it's a little far away, but like everything is happening so fast. I have a
That's
book,
actually not, well, I mean,
but it's not that far away.
that's just
Right. So it's with Weiser, who put out
Mhm.
Initiates. It's called Magical Shielding.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a modern, updated psychic self-defense. That was the
Well,
inspiration for it. I just booked the place in New Mexico for February because I'm gonna do a magical shielding retreat as a kickoff for the book. And that's gonna be in February. So I'm just kind of trying to like, you know, and hello, I'm like, what else is next? I have my first solo art show.
well, fun.
That's in July. That's like in a few months, like less than, it's like a couple months away at the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles. It's called Pieces as Portals, and it's all new work of mine that is going to be in the gallery. Naha, who runs 22 Teachings, is actually going to lead a Powers of the Sphinx ritual at the opening. And then we're going to do a panel discussion in the library. So it's Manly P. Hall's library with Naha, Lourdes Liner, who is a poet from Tucson, and Alyssa Conger, who is a medium from Los Angeles.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot going on. This is long. Yeah, it's all really exciting. It's also like, oh my gosh, it's exciting and it's nerve-wracking.
Sure.
So
Sounds like a lot of different things going on, but it sounds amazing.
thank you.
Marcella, you're the coolest.
Oh, you are. Just
What the heck? Seriously. It's just so fun. Like, I have had so much joy meeting such amazing, cool, magical people. It really just is as sucky and shitty as the world seems sometimes,
Yeah.
It's like gives you a little hope that there
That's how
are.
I felt about the retreat in February. Oh my God, my spirit felt
Yeah.
great
Like,
and excited.
we need to
Like,
feel that. We
yeah,
do. Because otherwise we can
spirit, you know?
spiral out. And I don't want to feel that way, especially me having 2 children, raising them in this world. And I don't want to feel that way. So I have to feel like I am aware of the things that are going on in the world, but then I also want to like create my magical bubble in my house so that when we come home, we're in this like really beautiful place where everything is cool,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I
Yeah.
love seeing your adventures,
We have a lot of them.
yeah, well, the way you like, truly like love and support like that, like on every aspect and like really, I don't know, like I love watching your concert adventures and your travels.
I feel like we have this time here. We got to take
Yeah.
we got to use it. We got to do what we can do. I'm fortunate. I went to school and I got the job and now I do pretty well for myself and I can afford to go do all these things and I
Yeah.
can take my children and we can have these incredible experiences and
Yeah.
I'm able to do more than I ever thought I would ever be able to do. And having my podcast, getting to meet people like you is literally the cherry on the top.
Yeah.
Best part of it, honestly. It's like the best part of it. Like my job and all that stuff is fine, but like this is so much, so fulfilling, and
Well,
getting
I
to meet.
love being on this path with you. So, thank you again for having me and for all that you do and put out in the world. And,
Yes. I knew when I saw you on somewhere on social media, I was like, there's just something about her. There's just something about her. I need to be friends with her. I swear I'm not a stalker, okay?
well, they call me
Not a stalker. All right, Marcella. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a true joy. And yeah, I'm so excited for you and all your work. And I can't wait to keep sharing about all of your cool offerings and everything. So have a beautiful day, my friend.
Thanks for listening.
Bye. Thank you so much for spending this time at the threshold with me. If you want to go deeper, follow me on Instagram at mystical.mama.ash, where I share daily crystal magic and behind the scenes of this liminal life. You can also find resources, previous episodes, and ways to work with me at bigcrystalenergy.com. We're also on YouTube at Big Crystal Energy Podcast. And if this episode resonated with you, please rate it and review it and share it with a friend that you think would connect with it. It would mean so much to me and helping build this beautiful community of other magical friends and crystal workers. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye.